Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Caitlin. Apparently I'm a girl. I don't know, it's 2021. Let's not judge. But anyway, well, first off, welcome back, and I will start with a very honest apology. Obviously, it's been a bit of a content drought here for the last couple of months, and without going too in-depth into it, it has just been fundamentally my personal health, which has just been incredibly poor. Without going into too much depth, I have an issue with my spine, which is going to require me to have some surgery in order to hopefully fix that. And the last 2 months have been quite painful and just very disruptive, and sitting at a computer desk has been just something that I wasn't able to do. So to that end, I do sincerely apologise to all of you guys, everyone that subbed as well, and then I just wasn't able to stream. But also I should have definitely communicated this earlier. The honest truth is I was a bit embarrassed to be so ill, and so I do sincerely apologise for the absence. And while I'm not entirely sure that I will necessarily be straight back into producing content as much as I was, I'm going to endeavour to really start doing stuff when at least I'm feeling up to it, which I am today. So without further ado, with that out of the way, let's get into today. So this morning, or last night actually, I was going through all of the comments that I'd had during my absence, and the thing that came popping up quite often, people were requesting was Elemental. Why do I not talk about Elemental? What do I think about Elemental? How does it work, etc., etc.? Or rather, why do I kind of dismiss it a little bit when it comes to 2s and 3s? So what we're going to do today is, in the background, we're going to have me leveling with some friends on the start of at the time it was fresh. It's obviously progressed quite a bit since then, but it was a fresh start where I am actually going to be leveling as Elemental. It's just something for you guys to watch, rather than staring at me the entire time. I don't have any current PvP footage of me playing Elemental, but if that's something that people really are interested in seeing, then I can do that. Obviously I can do that quite easily on the Endless Tournament realm. However, as an alternative to that, there is a very good new YouTuber who I sort of came across today, or this morning actually, by the name of Troran TBC. I'll edit it, so I'll put his name up so you guys can see. He's done some really interesting stuff with 2v2, trying some interesting specs I'd not previously discovered. If you need your elemental fix right now and you're craving for it, then definitely go check him out. So yeah, let's go straight into it. Well, first off, what you're currently watching is us trying to get a tag on the named Scorpion at the start, which I have to admit I do actually get in a second. Hopefully, I'm pretty good at tagging, so leveling was pretty quick and easy with me. So yeah, what is my real issue with Elemental? Why do I think Elemental is a little bit weak in 2s and 3s? Well, there's several reasons, and we'll start off with the biggest one, I think, and that's basically Elemental. In essence, is an entirely crit-based spec. It's not uncommon at all if you look at Elemental Shamans, especially in PvE, to have pretty much every single socket will just be spell crit, spell crit, spell crit. Why? Well, spell crit gives you the burst from your crits. It gives you mana back because it gives you clear casting, 40% off your next cast, two times every time you crit, so you get 80% off total cumulatively. And it doesn't quite work out like that, but you know, you're getting 240%, and then it obviously just gives you, you know, raw additional damage. You've got talents that mean that you're going to benefit with 100% additional damage from a crit as opposed to 50. You know, it is very crit. You know, crit based, and there we go, getting the tag with auto attack over everybody else. You know, when I'm playing Elemental, I literally have Lightning Bolt. Well, I have this always actually, Lightning Bolt bound to mouse wheel up and down, because you are just going to be spamming casts. You want to sort of machine gun turret your casts, and doing that in PvP as an Elemental Shaman is really quite tricky. So yeah, back to the stats at least. Sorry, tangenting. So we're a very crit based spec, you know, it relies on crits. Crits is where your damage comes from, it's where your burst comes from, it's where your mana comes from. And what do we have in PvP? Well, we've got a stat, arguably the most important PvP stat, or the stat that a lot of people, you know, will highly regard in PvP and will stack in PvP, that does, not only does it reduce the chance of us actually critting, it also, then we crit, it then reduces the damage we do when we're critting. So the most powerful and important stat for Elemental is directly negatively impacted by one of, if not the most important PvP stats in the game. So the two together, you know, very counteract each other, and you know, there's not really any sort of class or spec out there. Maybe, I suppose you could probably say Destroloc's about as crit based as Elemental, but you know, even then they don't require, you know, the mana's not based on crit, which it is for Elemental. So, you know, resilience just really hammers hard into the effectiveness of Elemental Shamans in PvP, and as a result, you know, it can, you know, be quite limiting. You know, obviously that said, I still think that Elemental Shaman is S tier in 5v5, it's brilliant, but you know, 5s obviously has the additional support to make up for some of these, you know, these weaknesses that we go into. So we've you know, I've said crit and resilience, you know, they counteract each other, that's a bad thing. We don't like that as an Elemental Shaman. The next thing we do not like is we do not like Cursive Tongues. And, well, to a lesser extent, Mind Numbing. Mind Numbing we can remove, but obviously what you will find with very good rogues is they will put 5 stacks of wound on, they're then shiv crippling on, they're then swap weapons and shiv Mind Numbing on, and they cycle through this these offhand shivs to make sure that they're keeping effectively 3 poisons running on you at all times. You can remove, obviously, Mind Numbing with Poison Cleansing Totem, which, you know, cure poison, but it's quite tricky when you've got 7 poisons on you and they'll have vile poisons, so they have a bit of resistance to it as well. But either way, what these are going to do is they're going to add, I believe it is 60% cast time. I am now going to edit this and check so you guys can't see me doing this. Yep, so 60% increased cast speed. We can't remove curses, so you would need a mage with you or a druid, neither of which are particularly great with Elemental Shamans in smaller brackets. I'll go into that a little bit later, there are obviously somewhat exceptions to that, but fundamentally, you know, when you get Cursive Tongues on you, and you will fight a lot of Warlocks in 2s and 3s, as I'm sure we can all appreciate. And what we're doing there is returning, you know, even your fastest cast, which is going to be a Chain Lightning at 1.5 seconds, that's going to turn up to, you know, I think it's 2 points, quick maths, 60%, quick maths, there we go, yeah, so it will turn your 1.5 second casts into 2.4 second casts, you know, so you're basically, you know, it's a faster cast or slower cast than even untalented Chain Lightning. And as for your Lightning Bolt, which is a 2 second cast, that becomes a 3.2 second cast, you know. And this is, you know, there's then a secondary element to Cursive Tongues and what it does, and that's the fact that the Warlock, very well, especially if you're an Elemental Shaman, probably will not be playing with a Warlock, the opposing Warlock doesn't have this improved cast time, so they still have 1.5, or with the PvP gloves, I believe it is, oh, it might be a set bonus, but one of those, the PvP gear, they will actually have 1.4 second cast fear. Why is this significant? Well, similar to Resto Shamans, Elemental Shamans struggle due to the fact that they are always have to hard cast. We do have shocks, true, and we do have, you know, Nature Swiftness, whatever you choose to cast, probably Chain Lightning, but we don't have anything that can persist, you know, beyond that, so we need to be face to face with our target, which means that if, say, I'm going against a Lock Druid, or, you know, any, you know, Lock Rogue or something like that, if I want to target the Druid, I then have to be in line of sight of the Druid and stood stationary still for 2.4 seconds. Now, a terrible lock will be spamming fears on you, and you'll have a tremor totem down, and you'll get feared for maybe 2 seconds, your tremor will tick, and then it'll break. And they do that to you 3 times, well, until the DR's up, and then you have a little break, and then they do it to you again. A bad Warlock, not terrible, but a bad Warlock, will do the same thing, but they'll have a Totem Stomp macro, whereby their pet, whenever they cast Fear, their pet will just automatically run, destroy your totem, and it's incredibly hard to stop that happening. Sometimes you get a bit lucky, sometimes you won't. You know, you might end up sitting the full Fear, or, you know, you'll get a dodgy tick or a bit of lucky tick. And yeah, you end up getting CC'd very heavily, because you are forced, if you're actually trying to basically do anything of significance, you are forced to stand still for, you know, nearly 3 seconds or over 3 seconds in order to do what you actually want to be doing, and that's pretty bad. However, the worst then is, so we've done the terrible Warlocks, we've got the bad Warlocks. Now what the actual good Warlocks will do is they will not mindlessly spam fears on you. A good Warlock understands the limitations that Cursive Tongue will put onto a Shaman, and it's even worse for Resto Shamans in particular, I find. But what a good Warlock will do is they will go, okay, I'm going to, so you want to cast, you will go, I'll try and fake cast, they won't spell lock, because remember, 2.4 seconds for spell lock, and trying to fake cast a 2.4 second or even a 3.2 second cast, trying to fake cast that is so incredibly hard. It's such a broad spectrum, such a long time for them to decide, okay, he definitely is casting this, it's not a fake. You know, selling it is so tricky. You know, you've got to wait, you know, until you're quite late into the cast before you cancel, and then every time you cancel and they don't fall for the fake, that's then cast time you've ended up wasting. So, you know, if you're cancelling at, you know, 2 seconds into your cast because you cast at 2.4 seconds, which is the fastest cast you'll have, if they don't spell lock, sorry, you've then just wasted 2 seconds, and the target was in line of sight, and so let's say we've faked them on the first time, you know, great, so we spent 2 seconds doing the fake. We're then silenced, you know, again, we're elemental here, so we do not have reduced silence duration or lockout duration. We can use a neck for that, and I think elemental probably would. Something of the Stonebreaker, I believe it is. I think it's from Blood Furnace Heroic. I could be incorrect, but I think I'm not. So we've got that. So we're then, you know, locked for another 3 seconds. So we've got 2 seconds of fake casting, 3 seconds of silence. Now we're going to start casting properly. Good, finally, we're actually going to get some casts off. Well, we're then stood still for at least 2.4 seconds, and we've got a good Warlock that knows we're going to be stood still for 2.4 seconds, and what can he do in that time? Well, he can just cast a Fear. You know, even if we're, you know, a second into our cast, he can cast a Fear at the same speed and land it at the same time that our cast will go off, which cancels our cast. You know, even if we have a Tremor Totem that breaks instantly, and again, good Warlocks will be slumping our Tremor Totems 24/7, you know, we will just get fear during our cast. So, you know, even then, you know, if we're saying, let's say we have got our tremor down, yeah, and our tremor breaks after 1.5 seconds. So we've got a 2 second fake cast, we've then got a 3 second silence, that's 5 seconds. We've then got a you know, 1.4 second, or let's say 2 seconds into the cast we got hit by a fear. So what we were at 5 seconds, 2 seconds into the cast to get hit by a fear, that's 7 seconds. We're then feared for another 1.5 seconds, we're up to 8.5 seconds. We still haven't got our cast off. Our fear breaks. Let's say for crazy reasons our target that we're trying to focus and kill is still in our line of sight. We can start trying to cast again, but oh wait, they've got another fear, and their fear is way faster than any cast we can do. Now what we can do obviously is we can shock it and then we can ground it. However, even if we do that, unless we're casting Chain Lightning, if we're trying to cast, say, we're trying to cast Lightning Bolt, which is a 3.2 second cast, they can do fear once into our grounding term, that burns, and a second fear straight away afterwards, and that'll land, and that's 2.8 seconds of cast time. That's faster than our Lightning Bolt. So the only thing we can do is Chain Lightning. And obviously, generally speaking, what you want to do is you want to be comboing your spells. You want to be doing Lightning Bolt into Chain Lightning simultaneously, one after the other, so that the damage, obviously the travel time the Lightning Bolt travels, that will connect around about the same time as your Chain Lightning, and it gives that really bang, that punishing damage that will get the kills. However, we simply just can't do that because all of a sudden we're, every time we try and cast, we're feared. So I'm sure you can see where we're going with this. By the time you've been feared 3 times, guess what? Spell lock's going to be back up again, and we have to start the whole cycle again. And this is what good locks will do to you. They will also do it to you, when you're resto as well. If you've got a good warlock, they will just annihilate you, and it's not fun, and it's so incredibly hard to really work around. And in 2v2, you just tend not to have the supporting classes you need to really enable the play. And we're not even talking, then you've got rogues and with kicks and pummels and mace stun from warriors. You've got hunters giving you pushback, and that's the next thing obviously, is we've got pushback, and we do have Eye of the Storm, which is once we're crit we then have no pushback unless you get the Eye of the Storm proc. Trying to cast with a Hunter's Pet on you, or Feral Druid, or basically anything on you, just go away, and then finally the biggest elephant in the room, you're hard casting basically everything. You will be you have got shocks, but again in TBC, if for guys that aren't familiar with TBC, all of our shocks are on the same cooldown, and we don't have wind shear, sorry. We have Earth Shock only, as I interrupt. So as we discussed briefly with the Warlock scenario, when we've got a fear spamming Warlock, yes, we can off shock and rank 1 to stop the fear, but then we haven't got the Flame Shock or the Frost Shock or the max rank Earth Shock to do the damage, and then we've just used our off shock. So the only thing we can do, unless we're using Nature's Swiftness, which is a 3-minute cooldown, well 2.5 depending on gear, unless we're using that, we have to hard cast, and then we have to deal with Cursive Tongue, Wound Poison, Counter Spell, all of these various other things, and all of the pushback. So that's all of the reasons why I think Elemental really struggles in 2v2 and 3v3. So that said, what can we do to try and make it actually work? We've had all the negatives, we've had the bitching and the moaning, so what can we do now to actually make it work? Well, the first one is play 5s. In 5s you've got 4 additional teammates. You can have a mage with you to remove curses. Quite often you won't be the target that gets focused. If you're playing something like 2-3-4-7 or 2-3-4-6, which is Warrior, Discipline Priest, Holy Paladin, Elemental Shaman, and then either a Hunter or Warlock or Mage. There's kind of 3 variants, so Mage, Warlock, or Hunter with the 1 swaps. Quite often those will be the guys that are being targeted, not you. So you can get these casts off a little bit more easily than normal. Yeah, in 2v2, my current opinion for Elemental Shaman, best comp for Elemental Shaman is going to be Rep Paladin, Elemental Shaman. Resto Ret is very powerful. I've got some footage of me playing that on the channel, and you can see the burst potential from just the Ret alone. Obviously you can assist a little bit with Elemental, and I would always say do, but yeah, now with just the Ret doing totem twisting, playing very well, and Wind Fury, they can legitimately, you know, there's a clip where Spank, who's playing the Ret at the time, legitimately kills a druid from, I believe it's 74% to 0 in a single swing, basically. Just everything procs, gets the Wind Fury, gets the crits, and then bang, you know, druid's dead. And you take that, and then you throw in an Elemental Shaman who, yeah, maybe you have got Cursive Tongues on you and you can't cast, but, you know, if you've got a Ret Paladin who's just pumping out, you know, this massive big crit, drops the druid low, drops them down to 40%, you know, pop the NS, Elemental Mastery Chain Lightning, shock afterwards, and, you know, you're blowing somebody up. What you find with the comp itself is you will generally be trained as the Elemental Shaman, so the first sort of, you know, 30-40 seconds of the match you probably won't be casting. You might in fact, you know, spend the majority of the time running around trying to get some heals off, which is well, where the spec choices come in, you know, because generally speaking, if you go 40-0-21 to get the Nature Swiftness and Elemental Mastery in Lightning Overload, you won't be able to get instant Ghost Wolf. You know, you won't have toughness. There is a spec, as I said, Trenor's discussed it using a toughness spec, ignoring the nature swiftness, so it's not as bursty, but you can have the additional survivability, and maybe that's, you know, what's necessary. So I would say give it a bit of experimentation, try it, yeah. So you going to be working in unison with this very bursty, very powerful Ret Paladin. And then on top of that, you know, the Ret Paladin can obviously give you freedom to help you peel and get a bit of distance so you can get the casts off. And then finally, if worst comes to worst, not worst comes to worst, one of the simplest and cheesiest ways of doing it is simply just get a bop. You know, if you've got a rogue on you, and you know, you want to get that cast off, and you want to, you know, go for the Zerg, you know, the Ret Paladin, Blessing of Protection on you, pops wings on himself, does a repentance on the targets that is hitting you, Hammer of Justice on the target you're going to kill, you all cast, he swings, and then, you know, you just go for the give. You know, so honestly, I think that is probably the strongest twos comp for Elemental, certainly in Season 1, very bursty. Alternatives to that, I think there's something to be said for BM Hunter Elemental. Again, you've got some quite nice synergy with just the bursty nature of both. You know, the Hunter is going to take significant advantage of your Bloodlust, and likewise, as I said, you know, if you haven't got the instant Ghost Wolf, you can be trained, so the Hunter Trap, you know, pulling the target that, you know, is training you through the Hunter Trap gives you that little bit of distance, you know, because you only need, you know, a little bit of cast time, hopefully, bar Cursive Tongues, you know, with Cursive Tongues, you know, you want to get away from whoever's training you, so Rogue or Warrior, pull them through the Hunter's Trap on the opposite side, gives you that time maybe to turn around even on the target that's training you, and, you know, blow them up with the Big Red and Bloodlust. The final one I think is that was sort of worth discussing and that people question me about is Frost Mage Ret. Again, I think, sorry, not Frost Mage Ret, Frost Mage Elemental. I think it's pretty viable. It's got some nice synergy. Obviously the Frost Mage again has that fantastic ability to crowd control and peel, which allows the Elemental Shaman to get the distance they need and the freedom to be able to get those casts off. You know, you can poly one guy and, you know, Nova the others, etc. You know, control these melees with the Frost Mage, and then in turn giving the Elemental the time it needs to get a couple of casts off, because, you know, honestly with a little bit of RNG that really is all you need. You know, I mean, you know, I am complaining that it's, you know, 3-second casts and you've got counter spells, etc, etc, but if you can find a way to get, you know, that 5 seconds of freedom to get the casts off, you can and will, especially in Season 1 with slow resilience, evaporate people, and it's pretty bloody fun if I do say so myself. So yeah, you've got the mage, and then the final thing with using a mage as opposed to say a warlock is, you know, a mage is just going to benefit from that bloodlust a little bit more than the warlock will. You know, the reduced cast time along with icy veins, etc. You know, they can really pump out those shatter combos. And the big one as well for mages is if you know, do not delete your mind quickening gem. Mind quickening gem in with haste changes in TBC, what you can do with, you've got mind quickening gem, bloodlust and icy veins, you have enough haste that you can do a double ice lance shatter combo. So what I mean by that is you do a normal shatter combo, so crossbolts, pet nova them, and then ice lance, but because your GCD is so low because of all the haste you have from mind quickening gem, etc., you can do a second ice lance and you'll get 2 ice lances and a frostbolt hitting simultaneously on a target that is novaed. You know, that then plus the elemental's damage, if you time it together, that is some spicy damage. So I'm just going to quickly wet my throat because it's getting a bit dry, apologies. Ooh. There we go, a little bit better. So then we're going to go on to threes. Now threes is a little bit tricky, again because you're on the verge of having the support that you need, but I don't know if it's really there, and I honestly say I've not seen a lot of elemental shamans in threes. So, you know, I'm sort of just thinking purely hypothetically here about what, you know, what can be good. So, obviously, going off of, you know, what we just discussed with twos, you know, sort of melding the twos comps that I think are quite good together. Something like an elemental mage paladin, not necessarily ret, maybe holy. I can definitely see some positives to that. Obviously the holy paladin has similar issues with all of its spells being hard casted, so again it benefits massively from the bloodlust, and again gives you freedom, gives you blessing and protection, helps you get those casts off, gives you also concentration aura to both the mage and the elemental shaman. So yeah, without putting too much thought into it, I probably would say that yeah, elemental mage, frost mage, holy paladin is probably pretty spicy. You know, if you want to go for something a little bit more memey, then you could obviously do something like BM Hunter, Elemental, Druid maybe, or even a Feral. You know, take advantage of the Feral. You know, obviously what we're looking for with this is we're looking for these synergies between the comp. You know. So between the classes, yeah, I know it's a crazy idea, comps that have synergy, but yeah. So I think when you're trying to develop a comp for an elemental shaman, what you want to be doing is you want to be looking for classes that are going to give the elemental shaman a chance to cast. So have, you know, something that allows them to peel. So like freedom, for example, or the hunter trap. So you know, that's sort of the first thing that you want to be looking for with the synergies. Next, you want to be, where possible, taking classes that are going to benefit from the totems. So you know, a ret paladin is going to benefit more from Wind Fury than say a holy paladin does from Wrathfare. You know, so again, you want to be taking advantage of the totems that you can be placing. So if you can get somebody that uses benefits from Wind Fury, that's a good pick. And then finally, you want to be, again, where possible, using classes that really love the bloodlust. You know, if you can have 2 classes in 3v3 comp, or 3 classes, sorry, in 3v3 comp that are all loving, you know, Wind Fury, sorry, not Wind Fury, bloodlust, then, you know, it's going to be picking up. So hence why I'm sort of avoiding Warlock a little bit, just because, you know, while Warlock does have some hard casts, and, you know, obviously the bloodlust will reduce the GCD on their dots, you know, I don't think that it's or as substantial as something like a mage when it comes to the benefits they get from Bloodlust. So, bit of an odd one today for me, guys. I will be reviewing some of the old footage I have that I haven't published today, and hopefully I'll maybe put out a video either again later today or tomorrow that has, you know, a little bit of more my traditional stuff, aka some PvP footage for you to watch, rather than me just sort of rambling about a topic. But once again, thank you so much to everyone that has subscribed and stuck with me during this trying time in my life. It has been really humbling and heartwarming to see people still taking interest in my videos when, you know, I've been, you know, unable to, you know, give you guys the content that you deserve. So hopefully we're on the final stretch now and things will be picking up. In the meantime, I hope this video has been helpful. If you have any questions about Elemental or Resto or Enhancement, then comment section is the place to be. If you have enjoyed the content, then give me a thumbs up, give me a follow or subscribe or whatever you fancy. I will be going, hopefully streaming a little bit on Twitch, but I don't want to make promises right now. And then, yep, once again, if you want some more actual just raw elemental content, then Trenor, his YouTube will be down in the description as well for you guys to check out if you want to see what he's got to offer, which is some yeah, really interesting, quite raw, but still really good content for elemental shamans. Hope this has been enjoyable. Hope you guys have had fun. Thank you very much for sticking with me today, and yeah, it's been Kalen.